Liberation greetings to all and sundry. Liberation greetings to the brave warriors and the brave hearts of the liberation movement of the people of the former UN Trust territory of British Southern Cameroons. Accept salutations from me today, Comrade John Akuro. Today is Wednesday, and this day is day number 25 in the month of January 2023. My people, I know that ever since Canada, the government of Canada, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, released information last week, Friday, January 20, indicating that both La République du Cameroun and the former UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons had committed to a peace process and picked Canada as the facilitator. A lot has happened and a lot is happening daily. And that, the speed of events rather intensified or simply intensified after, contrary to expectations of those who still believe in La République du Cameroon and also think that they could do things right. La République du Cameroon, through its Minister of Communications, negated and said that their country had not contacted any foreign powers for any mediation of what they still have a fake belief in their heads that is an internal crisis. Whereas, to all intents, the global community now knows that this is an international conflict. And that is why it has been thoroughly internationalized right up to this point. And so, my people of Ambazonia, today I'm coming to let us see the fire that is burning in La République du Cameroon and the urgency of the moment for us to stand ready to defend our territory and to make sure we send the last vestiges of the colonial administration of La République du Cameroon in our territory out of the place. We send them packing as fast as we can. A lot of things are happening there also that have used this platform to call on our compatriots from Ambazonia who are in La République du Cameroon, who even continue to invest in La République du Cameroon, to cease and desist because they are throwing their investments, they are throwing away their hard-earned money. And so I'll be delving into some of these things again today. And so before I continue, and I suppose as you sign in, you're sharing, share as much as possible because these are very critical moments and our people need to be thoroughly sensitized. So before I proceed, I want to make it again clear that the leadership of our liberation movement, we had promised to come out, four of us, to, have an exchange with the people of Amazonia and bring them greater clarifications on what happened in Canada. That particular outing is still programmed. And so we are letting we are letting whatever is going on right now to go on. And so this communication in no way represents the views of, this team of leadership and others that are joining the process. This communication is my personal journalistic work, a personal journalistic analysis, and continues to be part of my personal educational series. It is not also the policy position of the consortium that I have the pleasure to be president of. Of course, the day they delegate me to present something to the public, I will indicate that that is exactly it. Anything short of that, you're listening to me here. This is John Ba Akuro, the journalist, talking here. Okay, my people. That said, I want to say within a very short period of time, the initiative engaged by the Canadian government has gathered steam, a lot of steam, even from quarters that La République du Cameroon could not expect. We all know that after the release by the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs on Friday of the information announcing the coming into being of that peace process, of that mediation process, the negotiation process, the Vatican, through the Pope himself, that is the leader, I beg your pardon, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church came out to applaud the move. This is very significant, very important, because, as a matter of fact, it means that not only is the evangelical world informed about what is happening in the southern Cameroons, but they have the nitty-gritties of this to the highest level. That's why it was the Pope Francis himself that came out. And that action by the Pope galvanized the Christian church in the southern Cameroons. I mean, it galvanized the entire Christian church in the southern Cameroons, including the Muslim community. And in an ecumenical manner, the church this time in the southern Cameroons did not do what they do in the past. That is, try to flatter or appease La République du Cameroun by saying they should have a joint declaration with all the Christians in the country. No. They segmented themselves, knowing that they are southern Cameroonians. And this conflict is taking place in the southern Cameroons. And the people who are dying, who are losing property, who are losing everything on a daily basis are southern Cameroonians, are Ambazonians. For that reason, they came out with a joint statement. And you see, the title of it speaks volume. It says, Statement of Religious Leaders of the Northwest and Southwest Regions, following an announcement on 20 January 2023 by Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs of a peace process to resolve the ongoing socio-political crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon. I don't care whether they say Northwest and Southwest regions, of course they have to stay alive. Of course, they have to still be around there doing the things that they are doing. But one thing is certain, everyone on the international scene knows that the geographical expanse being referred to as Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon is actually a territory with international boundaries, known in the books at the United Nations office in New York as the UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons, the former UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons. You walk there, talk about Southern Cameroons, they will bring out the fire to you. So everybody knows. And so therefore, these moves should have taught La République du Cameroun that, as a matter of fact, everybody, every segment of that of Ambazonia, of the Southern Cameroons, have rejected that nonsense they called Grand National Dialogue. Yeah, that they have rejected it, and that is why everyone has been looking up to international mediation, third-party mediation, as the only veritable means by which the root causes of the ongoing conflict, armed conflict, between the Republic of Cameroon and the former UN Trust Territory of British Southern Cameroons can be resolved. And that's why I'm not going to read through their statement, because I know it's everywhere on social media, it's in some of the newspapers and everywhere, and you've had the opportunity to see that. I will take just a few sections where they say, having been first-hand witnesses to the ravages of war and the evils that have come with the armed struggle in these two regions of Cameroon, and as frontline advocates of peace, we, the religious leaders of the Northwest and Southwest regions, welcome this statement as a major step towards the search for true, sustainable, and lasting peace in these two regions. This has been our prayer, and we are thankful to God that a hopeful corridor is beginning to open for inclusive dialogue that should usher in a peace resolution of the distressful socio-political crisis in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. So what I want to say here is, you see, when they talk of the search for true, sustainable, that tells you that every other thing that's happened before now is gibberish, is of no use, of no substance. So any reference La République du Cameroun is making to that their grand national monologue and the subsequent spatial status, they themselves don't know what it is all about, that all of that thing fell on deaf ears. That is gibberish. And again, this is another very important thing. the government of Cameroon has relied on and pressured the Christian church and the imams to stand with them. For a long time, they had literally stood aloof. But today, they have decided to come into arena in support of a peace process, internationally mediated. But again, La République du Cameroon has done what every other person expected, every other right-thinking person expected that they would do. And that's why in point 5, the clergy appeal to the international community. The world has become a global village, and in that connection, we are one another's keeper. As we all know, no one can be saved alone. And in this regard, it is our hope that the members of the international community, especially the African Union, the European countries that colonized Africa, and the United Nations Organization, will show an indefatigable interest in this crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions and assist without bias or prejudice in the resolution of the crisis for the common good of the people of Cameroon. So, my people, you see, again, another very important thing. All internal avenues explored to address the root causes of this conflict failed. All because La République du Cameroon believes that Ambazonia is their fish that they have caught, and they cannot catch their fish and go to wash it again in water. Because La République du Cameroon thinks that they have conquered us and they must subdue us to their will by hook or by crook. So all internal means failed. And that's why the church today, more than ever before, the Christian church in Ambazonia, more than ever before, is now looking to the international community for a resolution of this conflict. It had to go this way. It only had to go this way. We have talked about it day in, day out, that Yaounde is worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. People do not want to believe us. I'm coming. Don't move an inch. Watch this show all the way to the end, because there is so much you have to learn here. For those who are still doubting that La République du Cameroon is nearing its end, you will soon realize for yourselves that, as a matter of fact, the end may be far closer than too many of us have been thinking. And I come back to this to say, when religious leaders, of course, this is signed by the Most Reverend Andrew Nkia, Archbishop of Bamenda, on behalf of all the bishops of Bapek, that's the Bamenda ecclesiastical province. And then it's also signed by Reverend Funky Samuel, the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. It's also signed by Reverend Nditeme Charlemagne, who is executive president of the Cameroon Baptist Convention. It's also signed by Alhaji Mohammed Bubakar, who is the Imam of the Central Mosque in Boya. It's signed by Toko Mohammed Adamu, who is at the Bamenda Central Mosque, and Reverend Dibo Thomas Elango, representing the Anglican Church of Cameroon. My dear people of Ambazonia, these are all people that La République du Cameroon has told that they should go to the blues. They are not ready for any peace talks. And now, of course, there's been international reaction. Because, the British, the Americans, and a good lot of international partners. Of course, I mentioned the Roman Catholic Church and Pope Francis. They did not wait. They didn't even feel like there was need to wait even for La République to make a statement before showing tremendous support for this new initiative, for this new peace initiative that would have brought or would bring justice to the people of the southern Cameroons, my people of Ambazonia. Because I said here 1,001 times, and a good lot of us have continued to tell actors on the international scene that the government of Cameroon is a rogue government, that Cameroon is a rogue state, that there is even nobody in charge of that country, that Cameroon is on autopilot. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry does their own things in their own, in their own angle, and that there is definitely no coordination anymore in that country. They were doubting, but today more and more they are agreeing. That's why on the heel of this, Honorable Tibonagi, who was the Undersecretary for African Affairs at the U.S. Department of State, tweets, Government of Cameroon denied it authorized Canada mediation in Ambazonia crisis, disappointing but not surprising. So the international community already knows Cameroon. My people of Ambazonia, if you are watching me, I'd like you to pause, take a glass of water or a glass of something else. Relax. We have done a tremendous job. Not only internationalizing our liberation movement, but presenting La République du Cameroun to the world for exactly whom they are. The rest of the world now understands better than we even do that we were or are simply so unevenly yoked with the people whose word can never be taken for currency. That we are unevenly yoked with a people who are not just bad, but who are horrible. That we are unevenly yoked with a people who never stand up for what they believe in, who never stand up for their rights, and that yoked with the people, unevenly yoked with the people who don't believe in selves, and therefore who are likely never ever to come out of the conundrums of poverty. Because let it be known to all, I will do a presentation here to indicate to you, that one with public policy analysis, to indicate to you exactly how poverty is implemented as a public policy in Cameroon. That will edify a good lot of us. So, Mr. Tibonagi says, Government of Cameroon denied it authorized Canadian mediation in Ambazonia crisis, disappointing but not surprising. Shows split in Biya regime and indicates sides positioning for post-Biya government. Also sad indication that no voluntary changes likely from regime without huge pressure. Beautiful. This is what I was expecting. The world now understands that if pressure is not brought to bear on La République du Cameroun, they will never move an inch. The international community now understands that La République du Cameroun only believes that it is its divine duty to use its military might, crush and subdue Ambazonia that went into a voluntary union of equals with them. But they turned around today and want to show us that they are our colonial masters. So the world now understands that it needs international pressure, sustained international pressure, to get La République du Cameroun to the negotiations table. Comrade Ebenezer Akwanga said at one point in a meeting where we attended and we all went into a burst of laughter when he said, I suspect that the only time La République du Cameroun will find itself on a negotiation table, it will be dragged like they drag something on the streets onto that table. That statement has always rung in my head. It's always sounded prophetic. And of course it is. And then, just as Honorable Tibonagi says that, another gentleman, Chris W.J. Roberts, that's somebody who, Chris Wallace, who has paid a lot of attention to what is happening in Ambazonia, to what is happening in the southern Cameroons, and has written too extensively on it. He says, maybe, finally, the international community would acknowledge the decay and denialism of this regime and apply more consequences to their escapism. Apply more consequences to their escapism. La République du Cameroun had in the past tried to fool the world that we were the ones not willing to come to the negotiation table. La République du Cameroun had tried in the past to fool the world that it has created a lot of avenues for dialogue, but we don't like dialogue. When it initiated its Grand National Monologue, they sent out invitations to us and then made sure that they refurbished arrest warrants, international arrest warrants all over the place to wait for us. And then They knew that that would be a deterrent. And then they would turn and tell the international community, you see, we organized an opportunity to dialogue, we invited them, and they refused to come. Nobody on the international scene bought that kind of sham stuff. And they have made it clear to Cameroon permanently. And now, listen, my people, if you are doubting that La République du Cameroun is a rogue state, go to the statement made by the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs after that release on Friday, January 20. She spoke Tuesday, that was yesterday, Tuesday, January 24. And she said, delegations of the government of Cameroon attended talks in Canada 3 times. Not only that, and at the end, they committed the international responsibility of Cameroon. Of course, powers were verified, and they had sufficient powers. That's what she's saying there. Not only that, she says, and makes clear, Canada was contacted by the government of Cameroon. So therefore, the government of Cameroon, listen, and I want to make this clarification. When I talked about the Swiss-led initiative, and I kept calling it an initiative, the Swiss-led initiative, I said from day one that the biggest loophole was that the Swiss took verbal speech from the government of Cameroon for currency. And of course, 3 years down the line, some of the Swiss officials I eventually met on my recent trips to Europe made clear that they now understand, that they finally understand where we were coming from. Where those of us who said we can't come in until we see a mandate signed by the government of Cameroon that we had a point. They now recognize at the end of the day that the government of Cameroon excels in skullduggery, in playing games. That is why, because Canada consulted them, they drew the attention of the Canadian authorities, of course, to the fact that if you don't have them put anything to paper, make no statement. That is why the government of Cameroon today is in a tight corner. Because Canada has a document on which representatives of the government of Cameroon signed on behalf of that country. And that is why Minister Melanie Joy speaks with a lot of authority and tells the world Ottawa was contacted by Yaounde and at the highest level to initiate a mediation process. So therefore, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada, Melanie Joy, is simply telling the world Cameroon lied. The Cameroon Minister of Communication is a liar. That's another way of saying it. But you know, in diplomacy, of course, you use nice words to translate the same thing you would have said with the hard ones. And that's exactly what he said. So she made clear Cameroon was not only represented, Cameroon contacted Canada, Cameroon sent delegations 3 times, Cameroon signed and Cameroon committed. Period. And that is why you now get people like Chris W.J. Roberts saying, maybe, finally, the international community will acknowledge the decay and denialism of this regime and apply more consequences to their escapism. So Cameroon was destroyed in Canada by Ambazonia in one way. This is the thing, and let's be clear about it. La République du Cameroon got to Canada expecting that they were going to hold several sessions, separate sessions with A, the Ambazonia Governing Council, A Gov C, B, with the IG group, the interim government group, C, with the APLM, D, maybe with ACT, and then they will discuss one thing here, come mix the other one there, come do this there. But unfortunately for them, when our people got to Canada, they said that we are all here in the interest of Amazonia. Therefore, one meeting for everybody. Therefore, one talk for everybody. And they picked the lead. And this lead coordinated the affairs of all of these people. And therefore, La République du Cameroon found itself before a united Ambazonian front. And Ambazonia sent a message to the world that we will rise to the occasion anytime the supreme interest of Ambazonia is concerned on the international scene. Oh yes, and we rose to the occasion. So today, La République du Cameroon can no longer say, I don't know who to talk to in Ambazonia. I don't have someone to talk to in Ambazonia. Because of course, we also made it clear that when the peace process proper or when the negotiations proper begin, Ambazonia will be represented by a team of experts from various walks of life who will be representing Ambazonia, not groups. La République du Cameroon said this is incredible. That means we are going to be in trouble right there. That is why they prefer to accept the status of a rogue state than move in this direction. I've always said here that La République du Cameroon will be willing to come to a transparent table because they have nothing that shows their claim to the Southern Cameroon's territory. Nothing. There was never a treaty of union. There is no international paper that hands over the territory of Ambazonia to La République du Cameroon. None. None. So La République du Cameroon, they know they have no case. That is why all they believe in today is brute force. And of course, thankfully, the international community now understands that just like they are doing in Ukraine, that is what has to be done in Ambazonia to weed La République du Cameroon out of our territory. To weed La République du Cameroon out of our territory. I may seem a bit loud. It is simply because the device I'm using to do this live show is really not my adapted studio. Like I've said a couple of times, work is still ongoing to get my studio back up and running. And of course, we will go back to enjoying very beautiful sound. And so I know some of you have complained that the volume is a bit low and everything. Let's make do with this because, we are at war. And therefore, we cannot wait until everything is put together before we keep on communicating and mobilizing ourselves to stand up to the vials and the wiles of La République du Cameroon. Therefore, my people, just as this is going on, La République du Cameroon itself is literally ablaze at this point in time. Why ablaze? Because like I've always said, there is no rule of law in La République du Cameroon. Rule of law does not exist. That is even why I keep telling Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians who are still buying property, buying land and investing in La République du Cameroon, you lack what to do with your resources. Unless you do not toil to earn that money, keep throwing it. Because those people are encouraging you to build, selling you the land voluntarily. A lot of that land has no title. Even some of the title land, they are yet to do the transfer to you because the process is really cumbersome and tortuous. And they know the various speed breaks that you will meet in order to actually possess that property. And they are aware of the chaos that is coming right ahead. And they know, therefore, that before long, you will be dispossessed once and for all from that property. Just before I came into this broadcast, I received a cable from a comrade in Kumba. And he was telling me he was just on phone with some other family members and friends in Bamenda. And they were saying a lot of our people who had escaped to La République du Cameroon and some who have even been there for too many years are now calling to say, please look for places which are slightly safe for us to come rent and come back home because it's getting rougher over here. I obtained from them to share this information here. Why? Because it is important so that those who are still thinking of going that way know that you are running straight into a trap. And of course, don't forget that I mentioned here that Clovis Nasseri of my country people there made clear that in La République du Cameroon, only the families of those who call themselves blackleg can be protected. As for the other people, they have been authorized by the government of Cameroon to use every means they can fish them out, even in La République du Cameroon, and wipe them from the surface of the earth, and nothing will happen. Nobody will ask them a question. We have lost people that way like that. We have seen some of our people that will just disappear and nobody ever knows where they are anymore. That is a clear explanation of exactly what has been happening to them. And so it came to pass that the kidnap and eventual lynching of Martinez Zogo to death in Yaounde has set that country ablaze. It has touched the alarm bells, and everywhere in the world, everyone now knows that Cameroon is a time bomb. And you know what is even worse? Everyone knows why Martinez Zogo was brutally murdered. I'm reading this from the head of the Bureau of African Affairs at the United States Department of State. That is Ms. Fee, who replaced Mr. Tibonagi at the State Department, at the Bureau of African Affairs. This is what she said. My condolences to the family and colleagues of Cameroonian journalist Martinez Zogo. The United States expects an impartial and transparent investigation and honors his brave coverage of embezzlement. So everyone knows that he was killed because of embezzlement. So even on the international scene, everybody knows that he was brutally murdered, assassinated, because they have to hide the criminal financial activities of people like the gentleman they call Zomloa Amugu Bellinga. And it's a cartel that includes Louis Paul Motaze, Laurent Esso, Atanga Ponji, and a good lot of them in that net. So it has touched the alarm bells. And I want to play this quick video for us to listen. It is in French. I'll interpret as we go. Unfortunately, like I said, my studio is not up and running. You will bear with me just listening to the sound and make it a bit loud enough. And I'll interpret as he's going. This is Sébastien Nadeau. He is a member of parliament in France. And this is what he says about Cameroon right now. Listen.
Que se passe-t-il au Cameroun? La situation est très grave. La guerre de succession de l'après-Paul Biya est ouverte. Ce n'est un mystère pour personne que le chef de l'État du Cameroun, qui aura 90 ans dans quelques jours, président de la République depuis plus de 40 ans, effectue ses derniers mois à la tête du pays.
My people, I said here that, as a matter of fact, we are witnessing the last months or the last years of the Biya system, that the Armageddon, the implosion is quite close. But now, this is a French MP, Sébastien Nadeau, saying here that this will be now a matter of months. Because he says that it's no longer a secret for anyone that nonagerian Paul Biya, 89 years old, who will be 90 years old in a few days, of course on February 13th, that he is nearing his last days, and so the succession battle has started. Because the spate of killings in La République du Cameroon now is unparalleled, and it's going to get worse in the days ahead. Of course, you hear, beginning with the Minister of Mines that died recently. The circumstances have been judged extremely suspicious. And curiously enough, not even the Prime Minister of Cameroon sent a message of sympathy to the family of that minister. Not even the President of the Republic sent even just a tweet to console the family of a sitting minister that died in function. Even Cameroon Tribune, the government news organ, did not even announce with a picture of that minister on the cover page. So that tells you that in the duel between Chelsea and Barcelona, as I said in my last outing, perhaps he was he was part of the Chelsea team. So therefore, the killing machine is on. The tension is growing. I said it's a powder magazine. And especially, members of the armed forces of La République du Cameroun, who are citizens from the 3 northern regions of Cameroon, A good lot of them are already preparing their retreat home to defend their homeland because they say if they don't take power, they will cut off the three northern regions and also become a country. That is real secession. It's not what I talk about in southern Cameroon. That is real secession. Because I've said it before, I have a film of it. There are children who are in the military, in the gendarmerie, in the police, in the in the infantry. All of them are actively preparing. They are waiting for the signal to fall back home for the saga to begin. This is why I said here that let our own children of the southern Cameroons, of Ambazonia, who are still serving the military of Mr. Biya, be getting ready. Stand ready. Once you get a patriotic call from others who know, make sure you move. And move well. Because l'heure est grave, as they say in French. Let's listen again.
Depuis plusieurs années déjà, le bal des prétendants a fait de nombreuses victimes, au premier rang desquelles figurent les Camerounaises et les Camerounais dans leur quotidien, mais bien d'autres. Avec l'approche de l'échéance,
He says the succession battle has been on for some time, but now, with the approach of the end of the Biya regime, it is taking a completely vexing dimension.
Les clans qui s'affrontent se sont affranchis de toutes les règles. Les dommages collatéraux sont très nombreux. Détournement de fonds, emprisonnement des gêneurs, meurtre, injustice érigée comme méthode.
So he says that dangerous fight of positioning that is ongoing is already creating a lot of collateral damages, among which are 1. Rampant assassinations, unjustified imprisonments, sustained and reinforced embezzlement of public funds by the various camps to stand ready for the fight. And he says, therefore, the end is night.
Il ne s'agit plus que de montrer sa force à l'autre, lui faire suffisamment peur ou le faire disparaître. Dans ce contexte, la mort non élucidée ce week-end du ministre des Mines et du...
So he says the actions of the various camps are geared at, creating total fear and panic. Each camp is trying to do that onto the other. So that they either totally disappear you, they murder you, they assassinate you, or they make sure you are sufficiently frightened as to understand that when the time comes, line up or you will be crushed. That's what is going on.
Développement technologique, Gabriel Dodo Ndoké avait de quoi inquiéter. Sans remonter très loin, on se souvient de l'empoisonnement mortel de la fille du ministre du Commerce, Luc Magloire Mbarga à Tangana, en novembre dernier.
So you see, he is now trying to mention the number of personalities, the number of people that have already lost their lives in this intestinal fight. So he recalls the poisoning, suspicious poisoning of the daughter of the Minister of Trade, Luc Magloire Mbarga at Tangana, in November last year. Of course, we have seen it go crescendo. We have seen the assassination of Martinez Zogo and the assassination of the owner of the company from which the assassins hired a Prado in Douala. Because the owner raised issues, like they saw blood stains in his car. I wanted to know what was happening. They offered several millions and he turned it down. They said, okay, you go with him. And that is what happened. And of course, Amugu Bellinga knows that nothing will happen to anybody. Why? Because he owns the justice and financial system and even part of the security apparatus of the country. The true Minister of Justice is Amugu Bellinga, not Laurent Esso. Laurent Esso only does his will. That's exactly what is happening. And that is why there will be no justice for Zogo. That is why there was no justice for Bishop Bala. That is why there has never been any justice for all the clergy murdered, assassinated, and their organs taken out, like the later Angel Benva. That is why There will never be any consequences. That's why there are no consequences. For the brutal murder of our brother Samuel Wazizi, there will never be any consequences. I've said over and over, La République du Cameroon Armageddon is close, just too close. Now we're having this confirmation from a French member of parliament from Paris. Let's continue to listen, it's almost ended.
Dodo Ndoké est le quatrième membre du gouvernement à mourir ces 2 dernières années, ce qui laisse déjà 100 voix. Mais hier, c'est le corps du journaliste Martinez Sogo qui a été retrouvé. L'animateur de l'émission quotidienne Embouteillage, directeur de Radio Amplitude, avait été enlevé quelques jours auparavant. Le journaliste était connu pour aborder régulièrement des affaires de corruption. Ainsi, une étape supplémentaire a été franchie vers la barbarie. Et cette question désormais...
So, he is describing the brutal assassination of Martinez Zogo and comes out of it by saying the Cameroonian system today has transformed itself into a great promoter of barbarism. Barbarism. So they have gone from just the mild, arbitrary arrests and detention and torture and everything, some enforced disappearances, right now to outright barbarism in broad daylight and with total impunity. Because thanks to the regime of impunity, nothing will happen to any of them. We don't have to be part of this. You, my fellow Ambazonian, Southern Cameroonian, who are still in La République du Cameroon, who is likely to be caught in the web of this, you don't have to be part of it. Run for your dear lives. Dixie, or said Jean-Bruno Tani. Run for your dear lives. So he says, I kill it too. That after Zogo, after the Minister of Mines, after the owner of the company that hired out the Prado to the assassins, that's from the company, from a security company, Ranger Security, owned by Amugo Bellinger. And he was not even just taken away, he was murdered alongside his brother came visiting him. So Sebastien Nadeau is asking, after this series of brutal murders, who is next?
Se sont réunis pour tenter une médiation via le Canada et trouver une solution politique. La terreur règne à Yaoundé, rendant toute démarche constructive impossible.
Good. So he is now saying that the reaction of the Cameroon government regarding the peace mediation initiative from Canada is a clear indication that the reign of terror, I'm not the one saying it, it's Sebastien Nadeau, that the reign of terror has installed itself in Yaoundé and will block any avenue that is likely to result to a definitive resolution of this conflict and that justice be rendered to the people of Ambazonia. That's what he's saying. That the reign of terror installed in Yaoundé is such that peace can never have a chance anymore. It goes back to the same thing that I've said a while ago that I quoted the other authors. International pressure now needs to be brought to bear on La République du Cameroon to comply.
La Russie, les États-Unis, la Chine ou la France essaient probablement de jouer leurs cartes pour gagner en influence dans ce qui se trame de pire en ces jours sombres pour le Cameroun.
So he says, obviously he knows that his country, France, Russia, China, the United States of America, that they're definitely each trying to weigh in and to see to what level they can get greater influence in what is going on. Some of these actors mentioned are not necessarily in there for good. Some of these actors mentioned are simply in there preparing to reap the spoils. The spoils of the disaster that's about to unfold in La République du Cameroon. Because it is a huge disaster of unimaginable proportions that's preparing to come out there. And of course, I'm happy that on the international scene, they're already measuring the impact. Let's finish up with him.
Mais ce sont les Camerounais qui détiennent le pouvoir de dire non. Les forces vives
Okay, so he ends up by saying the onus is on Cameroonians to take their destiny into their hands. Just like I'll end his intervention up by saying the onus is on the brave people of Ambazonia to rise to the occasion and take our destiny into our hands. Because it is our destiny that is in play here. So while they are calling on the citizens of La République du Cameroon to rise up and take their destiny into their hands, this is a clear call from the French MP Sébastien Nadeau. So this clear call should sound and resonate and ring well in the heads of all Ambazonians. If you were still daydreaming, the time has come for you to recognize that it is right for us to all rise and take our destiny into our hands. We should all rise and take our destiny into our hands. Because taking our destiny into our hands is paramount, is primordial. That is the reason we must do everything possible to mention or to talk to all those who are still doubting Thomases, to educate all those who are still standing on the fence, to know that the time is now to rise to the occasion. My dear people of Ambazonia, my dear brave warriors of our liberation movement, I have cause to continue this communication because there's much more we had to talk here, but I'm afraid I will come back to this tomorrow. I will come back to this either tomorrow or Friday, and we will have the opportunity to delve back because I don't like to make this live show too long. We're almost getting to 50 minutes, and I'd like to end at 50 minutes. I don't like to make it longer than that, but I'll come back either tomorrow or Friday so that we examine the other salient issues and listen to the other videos and understand where people are coming from. Just before I go to this show, a former colleague, journalist in Cameroon, a citizen of French-speaking Cameroon, called me, said, Monsieur Akuro, j'admire très sérieusement votre courage. J'admire votre ténacité. J'admire votre détermination. I'm quoting him in French. À bien vouloir obtenir votre liberté. Mais, don't you think that was telling me that? But don't you think that now that these things are happening in La République du Cameroun, tension is everywhere. Don't you think we should rather join forces, all of us, chase away the Biya regime, and then when that barbaric regime is gone, then we can sit behind and fix things. And I went into a huge fit of laughter. I think I almost developed some chest pains because of that. Because I said, here who is talking? And I told him, you are looking for midday at 5 p.m. Like they say in French. Vous cherchez midi à 17h. Looking for midday at 5 p.m. I recalled to him, those days when we were fighting for you people to get the goodies are gone. And I reminded him of some examples that I'm about to quote now. I said, look, number one, that thing that people are calling multi-party politics in Cameroon, we, the people of Ambazonia, gave our blood and property, our lives and everything. And there are some people who are disabled until today just to make sure that multi-party politics was resumed in Cameroon. Because on May 26, 1990, it was in Bamenda, where the government came with the heaviest hand and killed 6 people, maimed a good lot of others, because we were fighting for democracy to prevail, for the rule of law, fighting for a better society for all of us. I said, and you Francophones stayed behind and watched that happen. And of course, when the pressure was brought to bear on the central administration in Yaounde, it is not the SDF that initiated this thing that was the first political party to be legalized. No. It was about the 8th or the 9th. They first started by satisfying people who never asked. Because that is what it is. They said you are slaves. Because you have asked or you have insisted, we see it may make some sense. But full-blown citizens need to enjoy it first before we come to you. Exit that. With the crisis of examinations in that country, The people of Ambazonia got up to request the creation of an examination board, not GCE board. We're asking for an examination board. But because La République du Cameroon will never ever give what is right for the people, never ever cooperate with the people to accuse to what they want, they will try to coin it in all other ways to make sure that they still retain a huge measure of control. After we fought and fought, students, teachers, and parents alike, until some parents who marched onto the streets in Yaounde around the Prime Minister's office were washed with water cannons to the point where some of them, with the strength of that water in their eyes, some of them went blind, and some are still blind until today. At the end of the day, when the government decided that, okay, it makes sense to agree to this and said they were going to create something, they started by creating Office du Baccalauréat. Office du Baccalauréat was created and approved before the GCE board. They gave them something they never asked for, that they didn't even understand what use it was or how it can be used, but simply because they needed to water down to dissipate our efforts. And after that, election after election, there was always massive rigging. When the people stood up, they were only asking, qu'est-ce que Bamenda a dit? We stood up. We fought for years for their interests. I said, look at even the salaries that teachers are getting today in that country. Teachers. So the advantages have improved a lot of teachers, at least somehow. It was thanks to teachers' trade unions from Ambazonia. That when they pressed and pressed and pressed, they were giving the advantage to everybody, not only to Southern Cameroonians. I recall late Simon Quenty with his cattle. The first was TAC with Andrew Azonwara, who unfortunately today has decided to side with the oppressor. The same oppressors he joined us to fight against. Today, after we fought and he got the goodies, today he is with the oppressor. So I was just taking these examples and to say they are legion. Every time there's a vote, qu'est-ce que Bamenda a dit? What has Bamenda said? I said, today, you are on your own. You are on your own. Go and take your destiny into your own hands. We have decided we will never want to have anything to do with you people, with your country, with your everything. We have taken our destiny into our hands. We are fighting and dying in our thousands, but we are strong because we are so determined to get what we believe in. So I told him, you are looking for 12 midday at 5 p.m. Cherchez midi at 17h. So you can have it. And so therefore I have this very brief message for them. But let me just 2 minutes, let me say this to them in French and I'll come back. Mes chers amis de la République du Cameroun, au quotidien, nous recevons les messages que vous envoyez à travers les réseaux sociaux, à travers d'autres moyens de communication, pour nous inviter à comprendre qu'il est peut-être nécessaire et qu'il est temps qu'on puisse se rassembler tous ensemble, chasser le régime sanguinaire de M. Paul Biya et puis voir après comment nous pouvions arranger notre société en commun. Nous suivons ces messages. Nous les recevons tous les jours. Je disais tantôt à mes compatriotes du Southern Cameroun qu'avant d'engager ce direct, j'ai reçu un coup de fil d'un ancien confrère journaliste de langue française à la CITV qui me disait vraiment, John, essayez de mobiliser vos gens pour qu'on fasse bloc ensemble contre ce régime dictatorial sanguinaire qui sème la terreur partout et qui a instauré un règne de terreur à Yaoundé. Moi, je dis ceci, et suivez-moi très bien. Le peuple du Southern Cameroun, nous nous sommes sacrifiés pour vous pendant des décennies. Nous sommes sacrifiés par tous les moyens en vous invitant qu'on puisse se soulever ensemble pour une société meilleure pour nous tous. Vous, nous avions traité des cafards. Vous, nous avions traité des chiens. Vous nous avez traité, vous nous avez autant pour moi traité de toutes sortes de noms. Anglophones, les ennemis dans la maison, les biafrins et tout. Lorsque nous nous sommes soulevés pour revendiquer au premier temps un retour au fédéralisme qui devait nous permettre encore, une fois de plus, de vivre tous ensemble, le gouvernement de Yaounde a décidé de déclarer la guerre à nous et a envoyé tous les moyens militaires possibles pour nous écraser. Vous applaudissiez. Vous avez passé le temps à applaudir. Vous avez passé le temps à célébrer et fêter vos forces de défense et de sécurité. Vous avez passé le temps à les encourager de violer nos sœurs, de violer nos mamans, de brûler nos villages, de voler tous nos biens. Bref, de nous annihiler. Aujourd'hui, lorsque vous lancez cet appel envers nous, est-ce que vous êtes sérieux? Est-ce que vous avez pris un petit bout de temps pour rentrer sur tout ce que vous aviez fait concernant le peuple du Southern Cameroun? Nous, aujourd'hui, nous avons fait un constat très grave, un constat amer, mais c'est la réalité. Que le peuple de la République du Cameroun, c'est un peuple lâche. Il dit un peuple sérieusement lâche. Croyez-moi, malgré tous les bruits que vous entendez là aujourd'hui, rien n'arrivera à personne concernant l'assassinat de Martinez Zogo. Rien. Rien n'est arrivé à personne. Après le meurtre, par moyen douce d'Ateba Yeri. Rien n'est arrivé à personne. Après le meurtre de Monseigneur Bala et son corps jeté dans l'eau. Rien n'est arrivé à personne. Après l'assassinat de Monseigneur Angel Benvin. Vous êtes restés impuissants à nous regarder. Après l'assassinat brutal de Samuel Wazizi. Je vous dis bien, rien n'arrivera à personne. Rien n'arrivera à Amougou Belinga et son clan. Pourquoi? Parce que le Cameroun n'a jamais été un état de droit. N'a jamais été un état de droit. Jamais. Rien ne doit leur arriver. Pourquoi? Parce que ils vous connaissent. Ils vous maîtrisent parfaitement. Ils savent que ce qui est bon pour vous, c'est le pain et la sardine. Et 1,33 et c'est terminé. Ils savent qu'il faut un petit bout de temps, vous allez oublier et ils vont reprendre. C'est pour ça que je m'aligne avec le parlementaire français, M. Sébastien Nadeau, qui dit le règne de la terreur s'est installé à Yaoundé et maintenant les gens se demandent au quotidien à qui le tour. Donc vous êtes un peuple lâche, un peuple totalement amadoué, un peuple conquis. Donc ils savent qu'ils peuvent vous faire coucher et ils marchent sur vous et vous ne direz rien. Parlant de la presse camerounaise, ça m'amène à rire. Parce que déjà, ils sont en train de contacter des directeurs de publication qui ont faim pour les amener à comprendre qu'il faut purement et simplement commencer à préparer des papiers pour dire comment l'assassinat de Martinez Zogo n'est que le fait d'un règlement de compte à cause des actes qu'il aurait posés à gauche et à droite juste pour manipuler l'opinion publique et dissiper la rancœur et dissiper le choc qui règne encore dans le cœur des citoyens camerounais. Donc, mes très chers amis, votre destin entre vos mains. Nous du Southern Cameroun, nous avons pris notre destin entre nos mains. Et nous allons aller jusqu'au bout. Rien ne nous arrêtera plus jamais. Donc, en vous souhaitant bonne chance, débrouillez-vous. Mais cependant, sachez très bien que la lâcheté ne paye jamais. Continuez à être lâche. Ça payera. So, my dear people of Ambazonia, my dear people of the Southern Cameroons, the brave warriors of our liberation movement, I want to thank all of you who were part of this live broadcast. Continue to share the link for others to, share in this message. We must have to continue mobilizing ourselves daily. Like I said, the reign of terror is now it's now rampant. It's now in operation in Yaounde, in Cameroon. Therefore, my people of Ambazonia, take home message, run for your lives. Those of you who are sitting there, run for your lives. That warning was from Jean-Bruno Tanya. Not even just from me, but I'm amplifying it because I agree. To God be the glory.